Father, for this day that you have given us, as we come to the count of business. I ask you to bless us in all that we do. In your name we ask. We say,
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This time, motion to open public hearing.
Minutes first.
Consideration of minutes from December.
I have no question. I move they be approved.
Moved and properly second that the minutes are approved. Question? All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it, so it is. Motion to open public hearing.
I move we open the public hearing.
So moved.
Moved and properly second. All in favor?
Aye.
Hearing open. It's time. Teeks Farm. State your name.
Good morning. I'm Dawn Street. I'm with Soil Masters, and I represent Teeks Farm. We currently have a 4-acre exempt mining operation just south of Sharon, and we are wanting to expand that to a 36-acre mine.
Any questions?
I don't have any. I think it previous one was approved. Small.
Correct.
Less than 4 acres was approved
Yes,
previously.
yes, sir. And DEQ has all my permits and everything waiting to be permitted out to me after we go through this process and the next process of y'all supervisors meeting.
Yeah, she's-
how far down 40 is
I am 5 to 6 miles north of Canton, just shy of Sharon.
Okay.
Any other questions? Any opposition?
I think the conditions that apply would be the same as the existing pit conditions that you're using now. Are you
Correct.
actively using that pit now,
No, sir.
previously?
I have previously, I've mined out the 4 acres.
Okay.
Entertain a motion.
I move that we accept the petition request.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
So it is.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Robert Armstrong.
Before Mr. Armstrong comes, just to clarify here, he was here back in December with a 4-acre or less request on a dirt pit, and it was approved at that time. However, since then, there are some issues that have come to light. Number one being when Scott went to retrieve the sign for the public hearing, the sign was not there. It wasn't just knocked over or whatever. It had been removed or destroyed or whatever. Don't know what happened to it. Just wanted to make that point. But also since then, Board of Supervisors has received a petition from numerous residents of that area stating that they never saw any sign giving public notice and that they were not aware of any public hearing or the proposed use of the property. And then through our own investigation, or Scott's investigation, he determined that there was an error in the notice that was ran in the Madison County Journal, gave the inappropriate date for our hearing in December. So back on March the 21st, the Board of Supervisors ordered that this be sent back to you guys for rehearing, reconsideration, and we have renoticed it in the Madison County Journal with today's date for the public hearing. So just wanted to clarify those points as to,
Did we ever figure out what happened to the sign on the site?
no, it was,
Did we put another one up for this hearing today?
Yeah.
And it stayed on?
Yeah.
Okay.
he did, and just for your information, we have implemented a policy. We've done it in the past, but not every time. But now, when we put signs out, Scott takes a picture, or whoever puts the sign out takes a picture, just to say, yes, we did put it out there. Obviously, we can't control what happens after we leave there, but it's up.
My turn? Okay. Hey, gentlemen, I'm Robert Armstrong. I own A&A Excavating Contractors. I'm a dirt contractor, and I have been for 47 years in the Madison, Rankin, Hines area. Dirt is the lifeblood of a dirt contractor's business. Not just having the dirt, but having control of the dirt. When you go to another person's mining operation to buy dirt, you're at the mercy of whatever they put on the trucks, whether they put wet dirt or dirt that doesn't meet your spec, or whether they load the truck fully or whether they load it short. And I've been told by several people to take it or leave it because they got trucks lined up down the street and they're going to sell it to somebody, and I pretty much am at their mercy. Having control of the dirt, having control of the cycle time, which cost me money on the trucks. In somebody else's pit, I'm in line with 25 or 30 trucks waiting to get loaded, as opposed to being able to control that cycle time in my pit. So having control of the dirt is critical. Not just having access to dirt from another pit, but having control of it is critical. I have been mining my own dirt for 40 years in here, in this area. The property in question is the kind of property that I look for when I'm looking for a mining operation. A lot of people up and down 43 are digging holes. Most of them are just digging holes, filling up with water. There's an example of that right across the street from this property. When I look for a mining operation, I look for a hilly operation so that when the mining is completed, the property is improved. The property has not been devalued in any way, because that does not serve the property owner to make money on the dirt that we take and then his property be not worth what it was. I did a similar operation on a larger scale in Rankin County, where Latter Range subdivision presently sits. Lineage Lake is an older subdivision next door. This property was owned by a Wofford family, and it was very hilly, one of the hilliest sections in Rankin County. The highest part was a 440 sea level elevation, so it was really high. We went in and degraded the hills in a similar fashion, just on a larger scale, and regrassed it, and they subsequently sold the property to the developer of Lineage Lake subdivision for $22,000 an acre. So when I'm looking at an operation, I'm looking at an operation that is a win-win for everybody. Mr. Woodrow Williams owns this property. He could not be here today. He's an older gentleman who lives in Chicago. But he wants to take advantage of this resource that he has. Just this dirt resource is no different than a timber resource would be for someone who had timber.
So he wants to sell the dirt. I need the dirt for my operation. When we get through doing what we're planning to do, the high area of this property will be degraded to a point about 4 feet above the road. And it will be much easier to do whatever Mr. Williams would like to do after that, whether he wants to plan on it or whether he wants to develop it into lots. But right now, the elevation of the property from high to low probably has about 30 feet of elevation change on it. I think y'all can still hear me. If you can, let me know. But this represents a picture along Highway 43 fronting this property. It's very high on this end and slopes down about a third of the way. It slopes down to just about 3 to 4 feet above the street level. This is a picture of the east end of that property, the embankment that you see. I shot grades on it, and from road level to the highest point along here that extends for about 100 feet east to west is 16 feet above the street. Okay, sure, thanks.
Going to the website.
Okay. This is a representation, an overhead representation of the property that is outlined in these orange lines. That's the Woodrow Wilson's property. Highway 43, Quail Road, that fronts one side of it. This green string line outlines the area that I plan to mine. This is the area that's very high above street, and it extends about 300 to 400 feet back from the road. At this point, the property is still about 8 feet above the road. There is a ridge along this side of the property that extends front to back. Everything from the western 2/3 of this property falls off into a lower grade and is densely wooded. As you can see, there will be dense woods and several hundred feet separating our mining operation from Quail Road and from any of the residents there. The impact on people living near us will be minimal and will be no less than the mining operation that exists about 200 feet down the road. This permit has been approved for some 2 months, I believe, and we have yet to mine any dirt from it. I don't plan to open a pit for the public. My only purpose in this is to get the dirt I need for my jobs. I've been working on other jobs in Rankin County, and the only time I would even be in there loading dirt would be for one of my jobs. And as you can see, we haven't been in there in over a month since it's been open because I haven't had jobs in Madison County ready to go. I do have some now that are on hold because this is the source of dirt that I plan to get for those jobs. And I always have jobs coming up in Madison County, but in my old age, I'm running a very small operation, myself and 3 or 4 crew members. So I just do what I can do. And when we need dirt for a job, we get the dirt from here, and we would probably be there for a number of days, 3 to 4 days at a time. The time it takes to finish a job, move to the next job, get it ready, and it may not even be in Madison County. So the impact is going to be minimal just from a time standpoint. And you can see that the impact in terms of distance and tree cover that would muffle any sound is as much as you could hope for. The sound that we would create is probably less than the sound created by the next door neighbor cutting grass. So it's the hum of machines. Yeah, and so sound level is not great, much less than a mowing operation. So I think the impact would be minimal. In terms of property values, there's no concern here, I don't think, in devaluing anyone's property values. If anything, we're going to be raising the value of this property for development purposes or for any other purpose that the owner might want to implement the property for. Now, as you can see, this is an outline showing grades in the area, and as you can tell, this was professionally made on the kitchen table in my house. If it makes sense to anyone, this green line represents the existing grade, and this is a north to south orientation. Highway 43 being here, looking at the property from Quail Road, but the property on the east end. The grade's not this high on the west end. So you can see for about 100 feet back, the property is 16 feet above the road, and then gradually falls about 300 to 400 feet back to where it's still 8 feet above road level. Our plan is to come in and mine some 10 to 12 feet of that hill, keeping the grade, the new grade, which is what this pink line represents, the finished grade, maintaining about 4 feet above the street and falling back to a point about 2 feet above the street, which directs all the water back to the back and away from the road. Again, the green line represents present grade, existing grade, and the pink line represents the proposed grade. This is an orientation from Highway 43, an east to west orientation. So we would again cut down some 10 to 12 feet from that highest grade, maintaining a 4 foot elevation above road grade, and then tying into this lower grade toward the end. This represents about 330 feet from east to west. The property from east to west is 750 feet wide. I'm sorry, y'all can't see this, can you? So, as you can see from the overhead aerial, our working area is on the upper 1/3 of this property, separating from Quail Road by 400 or 500 feet. So, any questions?
Property owners notified?
Yes, sir.
Okay, do we have return receipts from the notifications?
Oh, I don't, were they notified by y'all? I don't know. Is that what we're talking about?
That's not a requirement for
Not a
conditional
requirement
use.
No, I talked to Mr. Williams, but made him aware of why we were not mining dirt yet.
How long do you intend to stay on this site?
Well, again, I only mine dirt when I'm needing dirt for one of my jobs. We did this every day. We probably would finish it out in a year, but for my use, it could take a couple of years. And I estimate that I would be there, just because of the way I operate in other areas of town, a third of the time or less. A typical job for us takes 100, 150 loads of dirt, and so there's time clearing and prepping the site and excavating it typically, and then 2 or 3 days hauling dirt, and then we're on to the next job. So, operating on a small scale like I do, there's just going to be much less time that the property is vacant than time we'll be there mining dirt.
And the plan for after you're finished?
Oh, it's a reclamation plan. We have to file a reclamation plan with the DEQ, which, as you can see from the new grades, it would be a much less grade differential across the property, and we've in the area that we've prepped already, and all the area we prepped, we stockpile the topsoil. And then once we mine the dirt, we regrade things, spread the topsoil back, and fertilize and seed the property. We're responsible for creating and maintaining a grass cover on the property. And they check back a year or two after the fact to see that not only did we get grass growing, but it came back the next year and was sustained. The DEQ does.
You said you had a small crew that considered the flagmen and those who protect those who are coming up and down the street.
None of the operations on 43 that I've seen have a flagman. You know, we put signs up saying trucks entering the highway. One good aspect of this operation is the existing driveway that is presently on site. Which you can't quite see it, but it's just beyond that truck. That is the high point of the road in that area. It doesn't even have a culvert under that driveway because it's the peak. You know, the water drains away from that driveway in both directions. So visibility is very good. Trucks are pulling out on a part of the highway that is the peak. They can see left and right easily. And my trucks would only be turning right. You know, we would never turn against the traffic because there's no jobs in that area.
Okay. Any other questions?
I don't have any.
The opposition?
Mr. Chairman, if I could. My name is Don Clark. I'm a resident of Quail Road, and we are opposed to this permit. We're sorry we're only here now because we honestly did not see a sign, as has been pointed out earlier. I'm accompanied by other residents of Quail Road. If you're a resident of Quail Road or Highway 43 and you're opposed to this permit, please raise your hand. These folks today represent every resident of Quail Road, along with the other landowners that are in the immediate vicinity on Highway 43. So that's who we're representing. I am an attorney. I'm not here as an attorney. I'm here as just a spokesman, and a couple other people will speak as well. You know, Andy, in law school, they taught us that an attorney that's representing himself has a fool for a client. So y'all bear with me because here we go. First of all, I want to say that I understand Mr. Armstrong's desire for his own dirt pit. However, we're opposed to it at this location. I think it's pretty apparent that we're not opposed to dirt pits on an unreasonable basis. Sitting here just now, you approved a 36-acre extension to a dirt pit that is right down the road, as he pointed out. So we're not being unreasonable. It's just that this location is not compliant with the Madison County zoning code. Section 805.01 talks about the conditions you have to meet in order to get a conditional permit, which this is. Now, you have to meet every one of those conditions, A through G, I believe it is. We don't think he's met any of them. However, I'm going to focus on what we consider the three most important conditions that he's failed to meet. First of all, he talks about not having a flag man in these dump trucks coming out of his pit onto Highway 43. As he noted, there's another large pit just right down the road, and believe me, there are plenty of dump trucks, and by the time they hit this location, they're going full speed. They can't stop. I was almost run over by one of them the other day. My wife and I were. Now, there are 10 driveways in this area, this immediate area where all these people live. Those trucks are coming right past those 10 driveways, and in the middle of those 10 driveways, you're going to have other dump trucks coming out into the road that are going very, very slow. We think it is a dangerous situation, a catastrophe about to happen if that's allowed. So safety is a number one concern. Number two, the code provides that you have to make a provision for buffer and other. There's no such provision in his site plan. And number three, and most important, I think, is that paragraph G of the code provides general compatibility with adjacent properties. I can assure you, and all of these people can assure you, that this pit is not compatible with what the rest of us have built up. He talks about having a dirt pit so that he can economically make money. Well, that's on our backs. That's at our expense. We've invested money in this area. We all moved out here for the peace and tranquility, which is going to be shattered by a dirt pit in our midst with trucks running, noise, dust, etc. I don't have to explain to you how undesirable a dirt pit would be next to you. So we think that the incompatibility is apparent. We have a community in this area, black, white, young, old, and most of all, there to enjoy the peace and tranquility which would be shattered by allowing this pit. Now, I want to talk a little bit about his application to DEQ. As you know, you have to file an application with DEQ to get an exempt permit, which he now brings before you. The exempt permit is a pretty simple permit if you're going to mine 4 acres or less. It's essentially a one-page permit, and you have to answer just a few simple questions. One question is, do you have any other exempt mining operations on file? Mr. Armstrong answered no. And yet, before this board, and I saw the video, before this board, he told you, and he told you today, he's had other exempt mining operations or mining operations. The reason they asked that question, I would presume, is so when it's finished, they can go back and make sure it was done properly. But if you don't tell them you've got one, they have no way to check that. He answered no. That's incorrect. You can't have it both ways. Secondly, do you plan to file for a permit and expand later? In his letter to this board, he answered no to DEQ, but to you, in his cover letter, he said he intends to file for a permit to expand this site to 10 acres, unlike what he just represented to you today. So those things both can't be correct. Then another point on his application, the total number of acres to be mined, he answered 3.5. In his application to you, he denoted this area was 3.7 acres. But then he said he wants to use off-site parking owned by the county just adjacent to this area. That, in my view, puts his total operation over 4 acres, which would require a larger permit. One other thing he said that I didn't know until today, he just said that the pit was 200 feet down the road, the other pit he was referring to. On his one-page application, is operation closer than 1,320 feet to another mine? He answered no. So numerous questions on a one-page form here were incorrectly answered. Now, let me say this. Why would you do that? The reason you would do that, quite simply, is this. If you have an exempt mining operation, 4 acres or less, then you have the exempt permit issued routinely by DEQ, come to this board, get a zoning permit, especially if the sign doesn't notify residents, and you don't have to notify any residents by certified mail. If you get a pit 4 acres or greater, not only do you have to certified mail notify all the adjoining property owners, but you have to get their permission, which I assure you he will not get, because all the residents around this are adamantly opposed to this permit. So, yes, I hope that he has a successful pit at some point, but I don't think it should be at this location. You know, we have an old saying from law school, here I go back to being a lawyer again, that when you come into a court, or in this case, a zoning board, you have to come in with clean hands. It's called the clean hands doctrine. I submit to you that Mr. Armstrong did not come in with clean hands, either erroneously, accidentally, or intentionally. I'm not going to be the judge of any of that. Answered incorrectly almost every question on a one-page form. Now, as to the landowner, he's not signed this form. He's not here. He apparently lives in Chicago. We've tried to contact him to no success. And so we don't know if he's going to be responsible for this, if it was granted or not. But I assure you, we feel damaged. We feel like our property values are going to be impacted. And to speak to that, I'm going to ask Mr. Gerald Barber, who is also a resident of Quail Road, to come before you. He was tax assessor in Madison County for 8 terms, and he's one of the most noted real estate appraisers in the United States of America. I say, I'm not kidding. So Gerald, if you'd come forward and speak to the property values issue.
I appreciate that advertisement. Yes, sir. It's been, I think, 6 years, Mike, since I've been in here, and it always is the same. There's always one side, and there's always another side, and I appreciate what you folks do as far as being on a very unpopular public service position, because I understand, along with Ms. Pace back here, that some days you're not very popular because you have to enforce the rules, and that's what you do. Since I've left office, I have a real estate appraisal company that mostly specializes in conservation properties. We work from Texas to North Carolina, Florida, and those areas. But about the late 70s, Quail Road was a dirt road. It went back to the Archies in the back, and it was it was just a little small road. I bought property, 316 acres there, back in the late 70s. I was young and dumb, and I didn't know how I was going to pay for it, but I did find some very nice people that wanted to buy some property out there, and they built some nice houses, and we came in and we paved the road ourselves at that particular time and put the water line in ourselves at that particular time. Since that area, since that time, it's developed into a neighborhood. Quail Road is a neighborhood. It's a fine neighborhood. It's good as any place in any county in Mississippi. The values are probably I would say probably the highest from Canton to Camden in value now because of the investments that the people have made there. And the quiet neighborhood that we've enjoyed. We've enjoyed it with our neighbors at the Archies at the end of the road. We're all polite. We all drive and respect each other until you get out on that highway. And you get on the highway and it's like, you know, a drag strip with dump trucks. And when that happens to a neighborhood, it's like environmental pollution. If you're driving down the Natchez Trace and you get close to Highway 49 and you get that smell by the waste facility that you have there, if you notice there's no houses out there because that area not many houses, I should say. The area hasn't developed because it had an issue. It had an issue with all the garbage trucks and also with the smell. Long time ago, Robertson Springs Road had an issue, and that was back in probably the mid-'80s, I believe it was. No, the mid-'90s. And it was an issue over a lot of the dump trucks from the dirt mines and stuff coming through there. And there was a lot of opposition by the neighborhood because it was not safe. And a lot of the properties did not develop in that area as much as they did in some other parts of Madison County. So I believe that having a landfill next to a neighborhood will keep people from investing in that area and will probably cause, would probably cause a diminution in value because not so much the noise, except they do most of the time make that beep beep sound when they back up, but you end up with all the traffic that we have. And it looks like if you drive down Highway 43 and it's not raining, you won't believe a parade of dump trucks that are coming down through there. And we just don't want to see our neighborhood from Canton to Sharon become the dirt pit capital of Madison County, and we don't want to see 43 become a drag strip. It's very dangerous pulling out with these guys, coming down there at full speed with a full load of tons of dirt. So I would ask you to consider the fact that it was going to interfere with our enjoyment of our property. It's going to also possibly interfere with our values of our properties. It would definitely interfere with people that already have large properties on 43 near us if they ever decide to subdivide and to increase their values. So along with all these fine folks here, and we should have maybe had a barbecue or something, but we have never had this many neighbors together ever. So one thing did bring us here, and I appreciate all of them coming, and I appreciate you guys for what you do. Is you have any questions for me?
I do. Do you have, are you making your valuation judgment as a professional appraiser or as a landowner, homeowner in the neighborhood?
Landowner.
Okay.
But I happen to be an appraiser.
I understand, but if you're representing,
I'm just as a landowner. I'm also a land planner and a landscape architect.
I understand all that. I just wanted to get sort of a feel of how official.
Yeah.
This is your official opinion. That's a different story than if it's your opinion as a homeowner.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Let me see the hands of the opposers again. That's good. All right. Anybody else speaking?
Mr. Chairman, I neglected to note, and I'll provide this to Andy, the family that owns the house closest to this site. She's the lady, an elderly lady that had to move to Chicago to be with her family. She's ill. Her family, through their attorney, has sent a memo opposing this operation. They have been renovating her house and are about to put it on the market, and they're very fearful that they will not be able to get the price that they want for this house due to the location of this pit very close to them. So I'll enter that with Andy in the record after the meeting.
All right, thank you. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to decline or either.
I'd like to ask the petitioner another couple of questions. On your application, Mr. Clark suggested that the addition of the storage area that you're going to be using would take your total acres to be affected by the operation over 3.5.
I would stipulate that we won't use that. That was just more of an offhand comment I made stating that there's a great deal of safety related to the area around our entrance because there is this large area just beyond our driveway, that is used for county storage and could be used for off-site parking, but I'll stipulate that we won't use that.
So you're saying that the total amount that that will be affected by the operation is going to be 3.5 acres?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How about the distance to the other mine?
I misspoke about the distance. I walked that application to the DEQ's office because I want to make sure before I leave that everything is as I think it is. They check distances to those pits. They don't take my word for it. They check the distances to be sure before they will send me certification that I can have the exempt operation there. So the DEQ will certify that there is more than a quarter-mile distance to that pit. It is well off the road, and it may be more like 500 or 600 feet or longer to the driveway, but the DEQ has already certified that it's over a quarter acre, or they wouldn't let me have it.
Okay, so the measurement is not from the road to the driveway, it's from the mine site to the mine site.
Whatever they consider, whatever their application outlined as the area in their permit, and maybe it is the road. Maybe it's further than I say, but I'm telling you that the DEQ has already checked it, and that would be something that would be easy to check.
But that's not part of this packet. The DEQ permit, it's not part of what we have.
It is just a stamped copy of that one page. Do you all have that?
I think you're asking, Bill, if there's a DEQ certification that is part of the packet as to the
Yes,
distance.
that's what this, is
just
that
that
what
they-
this represents?
I don't know. I was trying to clarify your question, if
Well, I
that's what
mean,
you're asking.
The petitioner is saying the DEQ has certified
Correct.
that he does not, that he's more than a quarter mile from from his site to the other
Right,
site.
and you're asking if that
The
serves as
Opposition
certification.
says they're not. So, I mean, so.
I don't think they said I'm not. They were using my language of a pit a couple of hundred feet down the road as evidence that it might be closer than that, but I just misspoke about the
I
distance.
understand that. I don't have a problem with that. Are you, Mr. Clark, are you suggesting that the mines are closer together than a quarter of a mile and he should have had to apply for a full mining permit because of that?
No, sir, I was not even gonna make that point until he stated that it was 200 feet down the road. And then I simply pointed out, I haven't seen the DEQ certification that it is or isn't closer than a quarter mile. What I've seen is that he checked the box that it was not. And I presume they took his word for it. I don't know if they separately certified it or not. That was not my original point. I only responded on the fly when he alleged that it was 200 feet.
Okay, that's fine.
And I was just trying to make the point that there are pits nearby in the area that are, they're close enough to be the same kind of noise and pollution factor that this is. But the process is the DEQ permit application, and they send me back a copy of that one-page application stamped as approved, after they check to see that there are no operations within a quarter mile of it. And if it was determined after the fact, which it's not, but if it was determined after the fact, then they would come back to me to make it right, to produce a full-blown permit application. But they don't make that mistake. They keep up with that.
But there's another point where your application said that you plan on applying for a permit up to 10 acres, but yet on this one sheet DEQ form, you say no. How do you reconcile that?
Well, at the time, I really was anxious that I even had the chance to get a larger permit than the 4-acre exempt. But if I'm allowed to, I would like to enlarge the pit.
Why didn't you apply for a full permit for all 10 acres and be done with it initially?
Because it's a long, drawn-out process where this isn't. And just like Ms. Street, who acknowledged that she had a 4-acre exempt on her operation and is now applying for a longer, it's a month-long operation that I don't know of anyone who doesn't take advantage of the simplicity of the 4-acre exempt certificate and then include the process, begin the process to get the larger application so that they can get operating. There's a 300-acre pit on Highway 22 that recently opened.
It still
That
doesn't
recently got
explain,
their full.
still doesn't explain why you checked no. Why didn't you check yes on the permit?
Wasn't trying to hide anything at all. It's been difficult for the last 20 years. It's been difficult for me, for anyone, to get a pit approved in Madison County because there was a long while there where no pits were being approved. I was pessimistic that I guess that I could, but it doesn't change the application with the DEQ. You know, I still hope and plan to apply for a larger permit. At the time, which was sometime long before this, after I talked to Scott Weeks, and he made me aware of the process, that I felt like that there was a possibility. But I gained no advantage by saying no on that application to the DEQ, because they're going to approve or not approve a larger application down the road. That didn't sway them to give me an exempt operation because I said no to an enlargement.
Do you have any other exempt mining operations on file with them?
I have had, but they are no longer exempt. They have been finished and reclaimed, or they have been enlarged to a full permit. But I don't know of a single contractor who doesn't take this opportunity in the process to get a permit. This is the quickest way to get you on the ground running, an exempt certificate, which gives you time to begin your construction and gives you time to pursue the larger application. It's just the way things are done, but
I'm not questioning the business aspect of it, sir. I'm simply asking, because it was brought up by the opposition, that this form was not accurate. So I'm just asking the question to try to determine the accuracy of the application.
I have no exempt operations, and I'd be willing to let Mr. Clark produce evidence of the statement he made. I don't think he has any evidence of that. He just tried to twist my words to indicate, well, if I said this, then maybe that means I've got other operations. You know, he doesn't know. He hasn't checked.
Well, Mr. Armstrong, all we have is the one sheet that's before us, and the answers that you have, the answers that you gave to the questions on your application, they differ. And so we realize that we're not dealing with other pits, we're dealing with you wanting one. And the opposition brings up a good question. I'm sorry that things didn't go out right in the beginning, and if they had, you would have been here. But then it would have been an injustice to all of these people who stand here saying that there's not another need for a pit that close to them. You know, and we realized the lady right before you, she got her approval. But
that was just simply a change of opinion from the time I applied to the DEQ to the time I felt like that conditions were better now, that if you could make a case for it being a good piece of land for a permit, and that you could make a case for there being no impact or no diminished property values, that I felt like that it was possible. Maybe I could get a larger application approved through Madison County. When I first made that application, I guess I was just pessimistic about it, but it in no way changes my standing with the DEQ. You know, I still have the opportunity to apply, and I don't see where I gained anything by that. It was just simply a change, a more optimistic idea toward the possibility. After talking with Scott and looking at the process, I felt like, well, maybe I can. But I gained nothing by saying that.
all right, at this time, we'll entertain a
Mr.
motion.
Chairman, before you do that, we've got a lot of people here today, and a lot of people that possibly unfamiliar with our process. This is certainly an important matter to both sides. So I just want to make certain that anybody that wants to speak has had an opportunity to speak, understands the process, and that Mr. Armstrong also has a chance to respond, since he's not represented here today, that he has a chance to respond to any and all concerns raised by any of the opposition. So just wanted to be sure before you opened it for a motion.
Andy, I have a question. Mr. Clark makes reference to code, I believe it was 805.1. 01.
0501.
And he lists 7 items there, A, B, C, D, F, and G, safety buffer and general compliance. How do you view this as far as his objection to the not meeting this code?
Right. He's correct in that those are the items that have to be addressed and identified, but as far as, I'm not a member of this commission. I can't give an opinion one way or the other as to whether he has met or not met those or satisfied those to your satisfaction. But, I mean, the simple point that those are the matters that have to be addressed and included, he's correct. But that's up to the petitioner to present and for you guys to decipher.
I understand, thank you.
I don't think those items, they don't seem to have been applied to other pits I see in the area. Nobody has a flagman. If that's a critical point, I'd stipulate for a flagman. You know,
Just as a matter of clarification, I think in previous times, or previous applications for anybody, that is one of the stipulations that is, if needed, a flagman would be provided. It's not sometimes you don't need one. Sometimes you do. That's one of the general requirements that we put on any and all applications, is if there is a need for one, that they will provide one, and any other traffic control that there may be.
like in a limited visibility situation in a curve or some such.
Correct. And I think that would probably be a determination by, I would leave that up to Scott if he received any complaints or just general view of the surrounding area or the known traffic concerns of the area. But that's not a deal breaker. It's a if needed type situation.
And Council, I asked that question because it appeared to be a curve. That's why I asked that.
Yes, sir. Understood.
If there are no more questions, we'll entertain the motion, either decline or approve.
I think somebody else had a question.
Anybody else?
I think Ms. Kay Pace, who's a resident, had asked to speak.
Okay.
And I would ask that Mr. Armstrong have an opportunity to respond once she's spoken.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm Kay Pace, and I live on Highway 43, about 2 lots down from Quail Road. I know about all of the dump trucks coming up and down the road, and the Sheriff's Department and the Highway Patrol do what they can to slow them down, but they can't stay out there the 24 hours a day that they need to be there. And if I stop on Highway 43 to make a left turn up into my driveway, Lord help me if there's a dump truck behind me, because he cannot stop. So I have to pull out in the middle of the road necessarily to let them know that I'm going to make a left turn. They're going far too fast to stop. That's only one situation, and that's my situation. But when they spend all of their time going up and down 43 at 70 miles an hour, I've tried to keep up with them by pulling out and following one of them, and you have to hurry. You have to hurry. So that's a bad situation, a really bad situation. The next thing of it is that all of the promises made, all of the contracts signed, there'll be no one standing there in the middle of the road making sure that this is going on. There's no way to have somebody there 24 hours a day to make sure that any contract signed with the county or approved by the county will be taken to full measure. All of these people here moved out to Quail Road and 43 Highway because it was a perfect place for quiet living and enjoyment of your homes, your land, and I just don't think that we need any more dump trucks out there going up and down the road. We've already got enough coming from other situations there, and I don't see that it's going to help any of the homes out there, the quietude or anything of that nature, if this is approved. I would appreciate you giving this your attention and pay attention to the homeowners that are out there who have poured money into their land, their homes, their farms, their equipment to have those farms taken care of. And I would appreciate very much your taking this into consideration. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
As far as dump trucks on Highway 43, my operation will not increase the traffic on Highway 43. Highway 43 is where the dirt pits are. Now, in a perfect world, I'm allowed to mine my own dirt on this property. In an imperfect world, I have to purchase dirt from one of these other pits on 43. So the traffic is the same. The only difference with my pit is my trucks will be pulling out onto 43 right near Quail Road and will not have time to gain any real speed between the entrance to my pit and Quail Road. They'll be well beyond that before they get up to the speed limit of the road. And coming to my pit, trucks will be slowing down in preparation for a turn into the pit, so they can't be going 70 miles an hour when they pass Quail Road. Hopefully they won't be going 70 miles an hour at any point in time. I exercise all the control that I can on the trucks that I hire, and I am in control of them. If a person creates trouble or doesn't drive safely, I fire them. I've done it many times. I take safety seriously, and I'm in a position where I can fire them. They're all independent contractors, and I don't want anybody causing an unsafe situation. You know, I have the misfortune of finding a parcel of land that meets all the qualifications I'm looking for in a pit, in that it is an extremely high hill that can be cut down and the property improved. I just happened to have the misfortune of finding that property close to Quail Road. I think my situation is a very fair situation. I think logically you can't really point logically to saying that this will detract from property values. It's not going to create a pit or a hole like many other situations on 43 have. It's going to create a nice level plain, and we have 2/3 of the property or more in untouched woods between us and even Quail Road, besides the houses on the other side of Quail Road. In all fairness, the only difference between my application and the other applications is that there's 20 people in here telling you that they don't want it. They have the right to not want it. I don't think that that's a fair reason to disapprove it. I think the conditional use application should be considered on its merits. And I think that I've presented a case that is better than any of the other situations that exist on Highway 43 now. I've shown you that I'm going to leave a property that doesn't have any holes or any undue appearances, holes. I think I've shown you that it's going to be a piece of property that looks better than this severe embankment that you see presently. We've isolated ourselves as far away from Quail Road as we can. I think I've presented an application that exceeds most of the applications that have been approved in terms of the finished product and, you know, the opportunity we have to mine dirt and improve the property for the owner. The only difference between my application and the others is that there's 20 people in here saying they don't want it. They've tried to twist words and imply things that might cast me in a poor light, but those are just attempts to make me look bad. None of them hold water. You know, you didn't find any negative items at the DEQ from me. I'm not a bad operator. I'm not someone that's been fined or someone that's had a difficult time getting a permit. I've had 20 permits or more with the DEQ, and I'm in good standing with the DEQ, and I stay in good standing with the DEQ. I run a good operation. I have the advantage of having a small operation where I see every part of it, and I make sure that I do a good job on my jobs and on my pit operations. You know, I take pride in what I do. I'm a mom and pop operation. I don't have lots of people doing things I don't know about. You know, I take a great deal of pride in everything I do and in standing by my word. I just need a fair shake. You know, if I'm denied this application now, then I'm going to have to renege on contracts that I've signed because it would take months to find another site that meets my criteria, which is the kind of situation that we see here. I'm not going to approach a landowner and say, I want to dig dirt on your property, you know, but in the end, you know, you're probably going to wish I hadn't, because when you go to sell it, it's not going to be worth what it is now. So finding another site that meets my criteria, it's a needle in a haystack. So it's critical for me, and I'll ask as a fair shake. You know, if they've given reasons, you know, why this is a detrimental operation, that's one thing. But just because they don't want it, I don't think is a fair consideration.
All right. At this time.
Can I ask Mr. Clark one more question?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
The traffic has been brought up in the last 2 or 3 people who have spoke on this.
Yes, sir.
Have I missed something on the pit that we approved on the first item on the agenda? Isn't that pit nearby?
Yes.
And doesn't that pit also take trucks up and down the same Highway 43?
Absolutely. There's a lot of them on 43.
And yet there was no neighborhood opposition to
Well,
that today.
Yes.
There was no neighborhood opposition.
Well, we discussed it. That pit had already been established. The notice had been properly given. As far as we know, the applications were in order, and none of us here lived adjacent to that pit. We can't oppose every pit that's proposed.
I'm talking just about traffic.
Yeah, there is a lot of traffic coming out of that pit, and as I said in my initial remarks, that being the case, those trucks are coming out, and they're getting on the highway, headed our way, right past this proposed pit, and they're, at that point, got a full head of steam. And then all of a sudden, you've got 10 driveways, including Quail Road, and a proposed pit where slow, as he admitted, slow trucks are coming onto the highway in the face of these fast trucks that are coming from the. We think that situation is uniquely dangerous. However, there's no question, and we've all talked to the Sheriff's Department about this. The trucks on Highway 43 from other pits as well are creating a terrible hazard. That's something you can't do anything about right now. You've got to approve permits or not based on the face in the application that's submitted. So yes, we don't like those trucks on the highway, but that's not a zoning issue. That's a traffic issue. This is a zoning issue.
Expansion of that mine was an issue before us this morning.
It was, yes.
And the expansion presumably would lead to more traffic.
Yes.
Yet there was no neighborhood objection.
We had a bullet to fire, if you will, and we chose to fire it on this one in our neighborhood. Yeah.
That answers my question.
Now, I will say this, Mr. Armstrong, he looked at me and asked about challenging did he have other operations? He admitted at the December meeting, look at the video, that he did, and he just said he didn't, and then he just said he had 20, if I heard correctly. I'm not twisting his words. He's the one that filled out this application. I just read it. So, yes, the quickest way for an operator to get a mine is to go less than 4 acres, answer every question on the page wrong, and then lo and behold, just through the grace of God, the sign disappears. It's not laying on the ground. The one that was posted for this hearing was up. We all saw it, like we would have the other sign. We've had a lot of wind in the last 2 or 3 days. The sign, as of yesterday afternoon, was laying on the ground. We, of course, already knew about this hearing. But the sign that was posted before was gone. It didn't, not laying on the ground, it was gone. So yeah, the quickest way to get a permit is to answer these questions incorrectly, and then lo and behold, through the grace of God, the sign disappears, and nobody shows up to contest the hearing. That's what's happened. So I feel for him. I hope he gets a pit somewhere. When we saw the survey polls after the hearing was held here and his permit was granted, I called him. And I said, we've just learned that you're proposing a pit at the end of Quail Road. And he said, yes, sir. And I said, look, I explained to him the neighborhood issues, that we're very opposed to it. And I said, my son's a realtor. We'll find you another piece of property out where there are no neighborhoods around it that's suitable. And that conversation did not go well. Let's just put it like that. So here we are today. So I hope he finds a permit. I just hope that he's absolutely correct. I don't want it in my backyard, nor do these people want it in their backyard. Thank you.
Mr. Clark, in that playful way that attorneys can use language, has implied, not said, but has implied, my God, the sign disappeared, mysteriously. And everybody that has a brain knows that he's implying that I pulled the sign up. I resent that. You have no right. You don't know me. You have no right to make that kind of application to me. I am an honorable man, and I'm a smart man. I'm not stupid enough to think that I can get away with pulling the sign up and not be right back here. That's a waste of time. I did not pull the sign up because I don't like to have to wait for the other shoe to drop. I don't like to try to think I'm going to hope to get by with something, because that doesn't work. Sooner or later, it bites you in the butt, and then you do look bad. So I did not pull the sign up. I like to get things done one time and once and for all. I was surprised y'all weren't here at the other meeting. And he keeps trying to indicate that I've lied about permits. I have had permits. Oh, no, I have had permits. The question has been, do I have other exempt operations present? And I presently do not have any other exempt operations. I have 2 other active permits, full-blown permits. I have had exempt operations in the past, but they all changed. They were either reclaimed without a full permit or they were full permitted. So I have not answered any questions. I have not lied about any questions. I have had over 20 permits over the course of the last 30 or 40 years. But since there's nothing to point to say that this shouldn't be approved because of real-life objections, they try to cast me in a poor light by twisting my words and twisting the application and the markings on the application. I made a mistake saying no on that application for not enlarging the pit, because at the time, I was pessimistic about getting anything more than an exempt operation through Madison County. I came to believe differently about that. I came to believe that there was a process now that was in place for a man to get a fair shake that wasn't in place in 20 years ago when I applied for my last permit up here.
All right. Entertain the motion.
Got another. Good morning. My name is Roger Harris. I'm over the 15 acres right next to that land. Clarence Richard, I'm his grandson. And like Ms. Armstrong said, he couldn't pull the sign up because there was no sign there.
I pass by that driveway every day. I work overnight. I drive trucks. And every morning I pass through there. It's never been a sign up there. And that property there used to be where my granddad used to stay at. So I'm constantly, every day, I'm passing that property all the time, every day. And for the wooded area, that wooded area where my mom's house sit, that noise is gonna be right in front of her door. And she's trying to recover from cancer. So that's why I oppose of it, because I'm worried about my mother's health. And like, I used to drive dump trucks too, so I understand, you know what I'm saying, he wanna, you know what I'm saying, make money off the land, but that place right there is just not a good place. And then like, he's saying like the hill part of that land, that gonna make the water wash down towards my land, in which the water already flows downhill, so if a hard rain come, it gonna wash down by my driveway, and it gonna flood my driveway like it's already do now. That's why, you know what I'm saying, I'm opposed, like my neighbor, Ms. Eisenhood, all us gonna hear all that. It's been quiet around there, like the dirt pits that down the road, like Mr. Clark said, and Ms. Pace said, by the time them trucks get up to my driveway, them trucks rolling. And then like, if I'm, like when they going back down, if you don't be careful, you gonna get ran over. I done seen the gas truck turn over right there in my driveway. I done seen cars run off the road right there, dodging trucks. I done seen pieces of truck, the rims of the dump truck, fly off right there at my driveway. So it's real dangerous right there. And then you got like a dirt pit, like three houses down, 43. Then you got another dirt pit right down the road from that dirt pit. Then you got trucks coming off South Spring Road from a dirt pit. So you got all these dump trucks combined and coming that one way. And then the hill he talking about coming down, by the time they pull out, if they don't see them trucks, it's over with. It's gonna be an accident right there at Quill Road. And that's what I had to say about it.
All right.
This is the east line.
Side so they can see.
Property between this parcel and parcel D. Water on the embankment here. It would be impossible for any of this water to go up that hill toward the property. That's it. This is less than professional. Water silt flow toward that parcel. As far as dump trucks are concerned, the only difference this parcel would make, if approved, is that there will be less trucks gathering speed from those pits further to the east. Any trucks that come out of my pit will not have taken advantage of that stretch of road to gain any speed. They'll be at zero when they leave my pit. So the only difference, however great or small the trucks will make coming from my pit, is it'll be better, not worse.
Mr. Armstrong, can I ask you, why did you say no on the application?
I think I've answered that question. The application that I presented to the DEQ, which is the first step in this operation, because of the difficulty that me or anybody trying to get a permit application through the Madison County Board of Supervisors in years past was that there was a time that they would only approve an application if you were digging a
Mr. Armstrong, you're gonna have to speak in the mic, 'cause
Sorry. In the past, it was very difficult to get permits through the Board of Supervisors because there wasn't a process like this outlined. There was a time when this all came to a head some 20 or 25 years ago that the Board of Supervisors stipulated that they wouldn't approve pits. They would consider applications for lakes, but they wouldn't approve pits. And it was a difficult time, unless you knew somebody, it was a difficult time for just some Joe Blow like me from Rankin County to get a pit approved when that all came to a head some 20, 25 years ago.
Yep.
And the Madison County permit process was begun. Before then, the only process was through the DEQ. But as all municipalities got involved in it and it became a two-step proposition, DEQ and then to the municipality in charge, you know, it was just difficult. I was pessimistic about getting anything more than a 4-acre exempt, but the question that I said no to, I don't understand the impact that seems to have. It seems like I was gaining something by saying no on that application. If I wanted to gain something by saying no on that application, I would have said no on this permit application to Madison County. That would be where it would have been an advantage to me to say so if there was some advantage to be gained. But saying, putting on a DEQ application, it gained me nothing with the DEQ, whether I said yes or no. As long as I met the criteria for a 4-acre exemption, I was going to be granted it. As long as I was in good standing and it wasn't within a 1/4 acre of another permitted operation, I was going to be granted an exempt certificate. It's as simple as that. So if I was trying to sneak into this situation by saying no on an application that I won't be larger than 4 acres, I would have said so on the Madison County permit, but I didn't. I changed my mind, and I felt like that there was a possibility down the road because of the permit process that I see in place now that wasn't in place the last time I tried this. I felt like I could. So if I was going to gain something, I'd have said no on that application, tried to sneak it through that way. Does that make sense to anybody?
Mr. Armstrong, the people didn't ask that question. I asked you the question.
I didn't know. I didn't know where it came from. Sorry.
Yeah, I asked you the question.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know where it was coming from.
Okay.
No disrespect.
But I just want to say that, you know, I understand where you're trying to go with this. And that I have 2 dump trucks that I run myself. Mm-hmm. And I know for sure that ain't nobody out there driving no dump truck 60 or 70 miles per hour. But all in the same time is the way you answer the question, answer to the question on the application, you know, me being a representative of District 5, that I have no other choice but to deny your request.
Because of that, no, I said on the...
Because of where you answer on the application and a few other things that is going on.
Like, can you...
Within the neighborhood. The majority of the people have spoken and said, now, listen, I hate to deny it, you know, because I have dump trucks, you know. But if they feel like, you know, that it's unsafe to them, and I know for sure that there's the same dump truck that they're seeing, they're not coming from the same pit, they're coming from different pits. But all in the same time is how you represent yourself on the application.
I would be glad to start the process over and answer that question, yes. But I think I've explained why. I don't see where I gained any advantage by saying no on that application to the DEQ.
Right. But
we understand that, but we just have to deal with what's before us. And so with that being said, can I get the motion?
Before y'all do that, Mr. Miller, you asked a question a little while ago about the criteria that should be met. I found it. and I think it's important. This is obviously a very important issue to a lot of people here. So in making your decisions, yes or no, you are to consider this. The ordinance reads that the Planning and Zoning Commission shall not grant a conditional use unless satisfactory provision and arrangement has been made concerning all of the following: ingress and egress to property and proposed structures thereon, with particular reference to vehicular and pedestrian safety and inconvenience, traffic flow and control, and access in case of fire or catastrophe, off-street parking and loading areas, refuse and service areas, utilities with reference to location, availability, and compatibility, screening and buffering with reference to type, dimensions, and the character, required yards and other open space, general compatibility with adjacent properties and other property in the district, any other provisions deemed applicable by the Planning and Zoning Commission or the Board of Supervisors. Obviously, not every single one of those apply here, but those are the criteria to be met to any conditional use, which would include a dirt pit operation. So with that
Thank
said, it's in
All
your
right,
hands.
entertain a motion.
Brown?
I move that we deny the petition request.
I'll second the petition.
It's been moved and properly second to deny. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it, so it is.
I'm opposed.
Okay.
Thank you.
You vote to approve?
Yes.
Okay.
Robert Stockett.
That application that we do.
That was the whole court.
Most everybody on it.
That was just about everybody.
I don't know. He's listening. Well, he supervisor is very involved in this thing, in this talk. He represents it. I don't know.
All right, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. My name is Kevin Watson. I represent Tommy and Terry Noose here on the front row and their daughter Megan. The petitions before you are signed on behalf of the Stockett Trust. Tommy and Terry have a contract to purchase 54 acres from that trust. And as a condition of that contract, it's conditioned upon getting the appropriate zoning, removal from the PUD, the appropriate zoning, and the conditional use. So let me give you a little history, if you don't know it, and I'll be brief after the earlier matter. This property is in a PUD, and the first master development plan that that the county approved included lots and an equestrian center. So there is some precedent there for this action. They have subsequently amended that plan, I think it was in 2006, and in that 417-acre tract of this 100 acres, they proposed to put 149 houses in it, as well as 60 townhomes. And they would all be given access through North Shore Way, through the gated community. So in this proposed action, we're asking you to do three things. The first is to remove the 54 acres from the PUD, from the master plan, to rezone it to A1, which is really what it is today. If you've seen that property on the corner of Bellevue and 22, it's farmland. It's had horses run there for years. And then finally, we're asking you to grant a conditional use for an equestrian center. The result of your actions, if you choose to do that, would eliminate 200 homes. It would improve the traffic because you put 200 families coming in and out of the gate at North Shore. That's problematic today as it is, but you add another 200 homes to it, it's really going to be problematic. And finally, it's an amenity. The equestrian center would be an amenity that would add to Madison County and to Lake Caroline. Ingress and egress to the property, I know that's a concern of the commission. It would reduce the number of people by taking this 54 acres out of the master plan. It would reduce the number of people that would have access through North Shore. The Nooses have agreed to pay to the North Shore HOA to help maintain the gate there. So I know, and then the access. So any truck access or heavy truck access would come in off Highway 22. It wouldn't come in off Bellevue and North Shore and come through the gate. It'd come in off 22. That's the proposal. So I want to show you some. Tommy and Terry have done this before. They are, to say that Tommy, Terry, and Megan, well, maybe not so much Tommy, but Terry and Megan are horse people. They are clearly horse people, and they have built equestrian centers like this in the past in Lexington, Kentucky, and I have some pictures of those if the commission would be interested in seeing them. So this is the facility that they had in Lexington, Kentucky.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Are you proposing something in similar
Yes,
in looks and
yes. So they also, they had a facility, another facility that they built. And of course, Megan, she operates the center. She trains and they had another one in West Palm Beach. And as you can see, these aren't, it's not your typical stables. Andy, I'll give you copies of these
Yes, sir.
for the record as well.
you have something like this at your place?
I almost feel like I need to recuse in this, Andy. I'm a horse person too. I'm very favorably inclined to things like this, but my wife and I run a rescue operation that involves local trainers as much as we can get them. I do not want to be put in a position where I vote to yes on this, and then a month down the line, we're asking them to help train one of our rescue horses. So I would like to recuse. If you don't think I need to, that's fine. But I need to at least ask you that.
Your objectivity is up to you and yours alone. But if you would like to recuse, I think it would probably be appropriate that you step out, do not participate in any of the discussions
Okay,
or any of the.
I'm sorry. I love this whole thing. That's not really recusing if I say I love it. But
We'll come get you when it's done.
I'll be right in here.
Yes, sir.
Trying to do the right thing.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I may, I'd like to introduce Tommy to you and let him tell you about his background in this arena and what he proposes, the size of the investment, and the like. So, Tommy, if you want to take a minute and.
Thank you, Kevin, and thank you to all the board members for the opportunity to be here. We've been in this business for 30 years. We had the facilities you see before you, one in Palm Beach of all things. And then also the place in Lexington. The one in Lexington will be more similar to what we're talking about here. We had an old tobacco barn that we lowered the roof on and refurbed and had stalls in the bottom of it, and then we built a new 10 or 12 stall barn in Lexington. And Megan, after graduating from college, decided to get into the training business, and she rode with the top rider in the world, Kent Farrington, who's a top rider in the world for 3 years. Megan has been one of the top riders in the world. She's a very good trainer, and I think she gets that from her grandfather, who was a football coach. And now she has about 20 clients, 100 jumpers, but mainly jumpers. And so, and she and her clients and those horses currently are out at Providence Hill. And so our concept is with the purchase of this asset, we can build our facility that we have control of for our clients. And it's largely, Megan's got 20 clients plus or minus. It's largely teenage girls. There's a couple of Air Force ladies and a couple of other ladies that train with Megan as well. But it's largely teenage girls. This is one of the very few co-ed sports, straight up. Megan competed with the men every day. But it gives these young ladies an opportunity to compete in a good environment and travel. So it's a jumper travel. They go to Gulfport. They've been to Franklin. They're going to go to Ocala in the summer, which is one of the premier venues in this country. Now, to be clear on this is a training facility. This is not a venue for horse shows. This is for the use of training those students in an environment where the parents can come out and participate, and hopefully the dads, to participate in what their daughters are involved in. Our property in Palm Beach, from a cost standpoint, is not very comparative. For a laundry list of reasons. There was another house on the property that you can see there, plus it's in Palm Beach. But the facility in Lexington, we ended up spending about $2.5 million through the work that I mentioned earlier, lowering the roof on the tobacco barn and putting another barn, and we had a couple of living quarters. Megan had a house, and our barn manager had a house, and it was on 10 acres, and we spent about $2.5 million on that asset, and we've subsequently sold both of those other properties once we relocated full-time here. And so I would anticipate that this project would be similar. It's going to end up being about $2.5 million to provide an opportunity and a facility for these young ladies to learn a sport and compete. And so, but we can't buy the land if we can't use it for what we want to use it for. I do think it'll be beneficial for the community. It'll cut down on some of the traffic, as Kevin alluded to, and I think it'll be a real asset to the county. So with that, if there's any questions.
For you.
Yeah.
Is this being a commercial operation, or is this to benefit the people in Caroline or the general public, or what is the end purpose of this?
Yeah.
It's commercial operation, yes. But again, I think it's an amenity that would be available to people in Lake Caroline if they chose to become students of Megan's.
Okay, so they've got to join, it's a commercial operation there. So initially, Lake Caroline supposedly was going to have permitted an equine program or space in Lake Caroline?
On the original plans, So the original master plan, and there's been, can't count the number of master plans that the Stockens have proposed
yeah.
on this property. But the original, and here's the original master plan, it was adopted. March the 5th of 1998. There is an equestrian center on the original master plan.
Okay. And that was for the benefit of the people in Caroline.
I think it's just like, well, I don't know how they proposed to use it, whether it was gonna be private or not. They just provided that there was gonna be an equestrian center there. I don't know what the Stockens had in mind when they put this plan together.
Okay, I was thinking that Reunion has a question center, and I think it's for the people in Reunion, more or less. Is it?
It's not, Megan used to train out there. It's open to others that want to ride.
Right.
I don't believe that it's for the exclusive use of people in Reunion.
People can board their horses there at the center?
And train there.
At Reunion, I'm talking about.
Yes.
So what about this facility? Will they be permitted to board their horses there or is it totally a commercial thing?
Yeah, okay, so, all of there's gonna be 20 stalls here, and those stalls will be used for the benefit of used for and owned by Megan's clients. Anybody who wants to ride with Megan is welcome to do so, understanding that there's certain, code of conduct that we have and those other things that, to make it a conducive environment for young ladies.
Okay.
But it's not, we're not renting out horses for people to come ride.
Right, no, I
This is for the benefit of those clients, and that's
their.
their.
To board their horses? That's.
Mr. President, I apologize to interrupt, but let me explain
Yeah,
how we're going to do the process on this.
okay,
This is a master development plan amendment.
okay,
That would be addressed first.
okay.
And then we have to, just to step down these things, I think they're kind of all getting combined into one.
Yeah.
And we need to specifically vote on each thing as a process.
Changing from PUD
Conditional
to
use is
A1.
going to come last.
Okay.
So that's where this horse training
jumping ahead
facility
too
will
far,
come into
okay.
play. And you can kind of explain it on the front end that this was a question center, but we do need to address what's at hand. That's the master development plan first,
Okay,
then the rezoning, then the conditional use.
all right, let's do that first.
So just to be clear, what we're proposing to do is to remove a 54-acre tract from the master development plan as it exists today.
Convert it to
And that one is 149 lots, and at least on this 100 acres, it's 149 lots and 60 townhomes. So that's the first, is to remove that 54 acres from the PUD. The second would be action we're asking you to take is to rezone it from R1B, which is moderate density housing. And the third is to grant a conditional use, which can only be, grant a conditional use for an equestrian facility, which can only be done if it's rezoned to A1, as I understand it, Scott, right, Andy?
That's correct.
So those are the three steps we're asking you to consider today in that order. One other point I might make too, we are sensitive to the neighborhood. It's there at Lake Caroline. I live at Lake Caroline. I wouldn't be up here advocating for it if I thought it was going to be detrimental to Lake Caroline. Tommy has met with the members, with Tommy Guest, who manages Lake Caroline. He's met with the new president out there, Nancy Lehman. a couple of other board members and presented that to them. I think you've also, did you talk to?
Reached out to Paula, but I've not heard back from him.
Yeah, and we reached out to Paula Gordon, who is the president of the North Shore HOA, but haven't been able to contact her. So we have been proactive in that, in trying to be good neighbors.
My name is Mike Howard.
Step to the mic.
My name is Mike Howard. I am on the North Shore Homeowners Association, and my property backs up to his future property. I'm hoping so, anyway. But I tell you what, when Rob Stockett called me and said that they were going to change it from building these 1,000 to 1,100 square foot homes back there to having horses, I was elated.
I bet.
I built my house there in 2002, and they had about anywhere from 5 to 9 stallions that they had race horses that they bred and things, the Stocketts did. And I'd love to sit on my back porch, have a cold beer, and look at those beautiful horses out there run. It was just fantastic. And now I may have the opportunity again, instead of having build me an 8-foot wall behind my house, keep somebody looking into my backyard. So please, would y'all approve this? Everybody on the North Shore thinks this is fabulous.
Okay.
Thank you.
I will relate one other story to you. I bumped into, I saw David Nicholas's name on one of the email threads talking about this, and I bumped into him at lunch the other day, and I said, well, David, I want to make sure you're good with that. He said, the only thing I'm not good with is I want your client to buy the other 54 acres to cut down on all that traffic in those Cabbage Patch houses that they propose to build back there. So just communicate that to you. That's from a homeowner or from a landowner out there.
No one is here to oppose. No. Okay. Entertain a motion.
Let's be clear that we're first entertaining a motion to amend the master development plan
Right.
Right.
for North Shore of Lake
Number
Carolina.
4. Right.
I'll make a motion that we make that amendment from PUD to A1.
Second.
It's been moving properly. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. All right.
And to clarify, that should be a motion to remove that property from that.
From the
PUD.
54.
Now we'll go to rezoning.
To rezone now. Yeah. All right.
Remove it from the PUD first, right?
Right.
Okay.
All right. Rezoning
From R1B,
R1B to A1.
A1.
And included in that motion, assuming that you're gonna do it, I would recommend that you put a condition on that rezoning that it be for an equestrian facility only, because A1 is unrestricted.
Right.
So let's just say 20 years down the road,
Somebody wants to put a chicken farm in
maybe
it.
this is, chicken farm or a sale barn or a hog lot or something like that. So
Okay.
I would encourage you to include that it's A1 with the condition that it be approved for an equestrian facility.
All right. I entertain that motion.
There.
You adding that to Walter's motion?
No, sir.
This is a new one.
Any motion that's made.
I would move.
Oh, we
right.
forgot to call, he wants to stay out.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor?
Aye.
So it is. All right,
You get your horses, maybe.
last one, conditional use for riding Aquarium Center.
Right.
Okay.
Now that it's been rezoned to A1, this equestrian center is a conditional use. So
Okay. All right, entertain that last motion.
So moved.
Second.
Been moving properly second. All in favor?
Aye.
So it is. All right.
who seconded that, gentlemen? I didn't catch it. Was that you, Walter, that
I
seconded?
made the second.
Seconded that? Okay, all right.
You're good.
All right.
Thank you.
The Board of Supervisors meeting will be May 2nd at 9 a.m.
Okay, yeah.
Got to get Bill back in. I wonder if he's watching.
Yeah.
Think he's watching.
I don't know, he may be. Bill, you can return. Good, thank you. I would probably watch. I would not probably either. Yeah. Oh, gosh. Did you find Bill? Oh.
You're out of time out.
Okay. The horse business.
All right, Tom Mills.
Okay.
Oh, good morning.
Morning.
I just had a petition on a lot in Caroline to get a variance to move the lot line 2.5 feet.
Your name, sir?
Pardon?
Your name?
Tom Mills, I'm sorry.
Mills.
Yep.
Gentlemen, I provided you a letter from Blake Kress. That was laying in front of you when
Right.
you got here. He has no issues with this. I had the full set of plans here, a little easier to see. The issue, what Mr. Kress told me, is this setback on the rear, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Mills, that it has to do with the seawall, not the property line.
Yep.
And in effect, he is causing a visual impairment of the neighbor's property to enjoy
Yes.
the lake.
Where
And-
on this plat that we've got here is the lake? Where's this, which one is the wall and which one is the?
I don't have it in front of me.
I'm Catherine Tucker. I'm actually the owner.
This is just straight, here's the lake, right?
This is the road coming in. The lake is here. The neighbor in question is on this side.
So this is the lake here?
Yes, sir. And this is kind of a canal. So the neighbor in question is on this side. This is an easement, a power line easement.
Lake's on the left side of the page.
The lake is
Here.
Yeah.
Yeah, the lake is on the rear, but the.
The lake
there's
is
a-
on the rear, yeah, and really the property line sits back in the water.
Well, where's this neighbor at that can't see the lake? from-
It's on the right side of that property.
The neighbor over here, where's it? Okay, so, well, they have a house here?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
And they can't see the lake down here?
Allegedly. So the big lake is here. There's
Oh.
kind of a canal that comes this
Oh,
way. So
okay.
his house is actually on the canal. The big lake is.
So, all right. Jeez.
Where do you go?
I'm
Well,
still-
there's an easement on the left side of this property according to that little map you have. And is no houses over there, so it's not gonna impact anyone on the variance on that left
To
side.
the west side?
So he's gonna pull the house forward, shift it to the left, stay within the setback requirements on the right side, and you'll be, how many feet variance?
2.5 off the property line.
2.5 off the
Yeah.
property line. Which the setback in there is,
7.5.
7.5?
Yeah.
It's 25 from the lake, but he's asking for 50 in this.
mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm still, still,
So he's asking 50
still
for the
confused about where,
seawall.
who's moving what
And
where.
what the issue is.
Not the property line.
So we
I was telling her that.
This is the easement on this side, so we're asking to decrease this setback to basically 2.5 off the easement. That way we can move the house back.
Oh, you're trying to move the house this way?
Yes, sir, away from the lake so we can increase his view.
Oh, it'd been nice if that had been drawn in where you wanted to put it, so we could figure out what the Samuel's going on. I was trying to, all right,
So we're moving the entire house site down.
down toward,
Yes, sir.
down toward Harper's Way?
Correct, yes, sir.
How far?
How far down is it going?
Well, we're trying to get his requirement of, as of right now, with the current setback, we can't move it at all, because it's a kind of an odd-shaped lot.
Right,
It's an hourglass, so
right.
he's asking us to move it back, which would essentially mean the house would have to be in this very narrow spot, which no house would
is
fit
why you
there.
need the
Yes,
extra
sir. So
setback.
we just need a little bit on this side to be able to move, this corner up, which would essentially move this back to here.
So you're gonna be coming up in here
Yes, sir.
with that,
Correct.
with this
The
thing
whole-
here?
This corner essentially would be here, is what we're hoping for.
Okay.
The 2.5 feet from this line.
Where are
And
the nearest neighbors?
This side. This is a power line. So the neighbors are on this side.
I thought that was a canal.
Well, the canal goes this
canal's
way.
on this side. The lake and the canal is
So
over
there's
here.
nothing there.
So you don't show
No,
that.
no, sir.
Okay.
Okay, so this is a power line easement here,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we're not encroaching on anything, really, basically.
You're close
Okay.
to nothing. I mean, they can't be used, none of that property.
A lot to be desired,
It's complicated.
for the record.
Right.
Right, and we have the letter from Blake, so I'll entertain a motion.
I move we approve this.
I guess, I second the motion.
Been moving properly second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, so it is.
Thank y'all.
Thanks for clearing that up.
Yes.
Thank you.
I looked at this and I looked at this, and looked at this, and I couldn't figure out what the Sound Hill they were trying to do.
All right.
Do we need to?
This time I move to close the public hearing.
I move we close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Motion adjourned.
Not to adjourn, we have to hear,
Oh.
We got a site plan.
yeah, the meta site.
Who's this?
It's a government, we ain't doing no vote,
Madison
we
County.
just. Listen, go ahead, sir.
Hey, good morning. Clint Bledsoe with Alliant Construction. I was asked by Mr. Weeks to attend. I'm applying for a building permit for the spec building for the Madison County Economic Development Authority out at the mega site. 100,000 square foot manufacturing facility. It's a shell right now. I know they've got some tenants that are interested. They don't share who, so I don't know who they've been talking with. I know that it's growing a lot of attention. It's an attractive project. And we're looking to break ground and start foundations in the next couple of weeks. 100,000 square foot facility, future potential expansion up to 300,000. Precast wall panels. West wall's a pre-engineered metal building expansion wall for future expansion. We will not have a slab in it at this time, just as I mentioned before, we don't know who the tenant is, so we don't want to do any kind of slab on grades till we know what their needs are, and we can do, below grade rough ends or thickened slabs for equipment, whatever the case may be, so. But as I did write in a letter to Mr. Weeks, once we do get that established and we fit it out, we will do all the landscaping, the parking requirements for Madison County, what they recommend, so.
Contractor?
Yes, sir.
Is it tilt-up concrete wall panels?
It's precast,
I
so,
understand the precast, but is it tilt-up? You gotta have a slab in to put
no,
drop
sir,
a slab.
precast is precast off-site.
So-
The panels will be trucked in, we'll stage 8 at a time, we'll pour the foundation, we'll erect the panels, we'll have a
And
continuous.
that's when you'd build the slot to drop in.
That's correct. Tilt-up, you're right, you'll either have a casting bed, or you need a slab to cast the panels, but in this case, it's precast.
Single story?
Yes, sir. 31-foot eave heights at the lowest on the inside, but it's single story.
Okay. So, when you start developing the site further, you'll come back to P and Z or is that required? Since it's a
I mean, if you want to look at the parking and the landscaping, you can, or you can just let myself and the county engineer look at everything and just make sure it meets county requirements. It's entirely up to you.
Y'all know Walter wants to see those parking widths.
Yeah.
Once we do get a tenant and we fit it out, we'll definitely, you'll be first to look at the plans, and whoever else wants to see it to make sure it meets all the requirements.
Mega site out.
Okay.
Floor.
All right.
We vote on this?
Do you want
It's,
to, you know?
well, I'm not, it's off of 22, right in front of where the Amazon facility is, and the new energy substation.
City limit of Kansas.
No,
No.
No, sir.
no.
The entire mega site is in the county.
Pardon?
The entire mega site is in the county.
Okay, but
This,
Amazon is
this
in the
site
city,
is close.
right?
No, sir.
Close
It's
to
not?
22, right? I mean, it's
It is closer to
right in front of
22 than the Amazon site, yes, sir. The new substation they built, we're just to the south of
it.
it.
Yes, of it, just, yeah. Okay.
Mr. Rouser, you know, what you asked, you can vote on approved site plan. If y'all want to look at the landscape and parking requirements, you are free to do so, or you can, you know, direct it to
I would,
county engineer and myself to look at it and pass it on to the
not that I don't
board.
trust you and the engineer, but I think
That's-
P and Z should look at it when they start,
That's entirely up to you,
when they
this commission.
when they get a tenant and they want to finish out the site, I think we should look at it.
Yes, sir.
And I'd make that a motion.
I second that motion.
Been moved and properly second. All in favor?
Aye.
So it is.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir, thank y'all. Mr. Weeks, I guess we'll talk about permit and how that process needs to work.
Well, you got to get through the board first, that's May 2nd, and then you'll be able to pull your permit directly after
Still
that.
gotta go to the board of supervisors.
I got panels coming middle of May, so.
But, you know, you can go ahead and submit your construction plans, and we can be looking at it in the meantime.
Start doing your dirt work.
I will give you a call. and-
Yeah, call me, because we got the dirt pad in, and I've got you all the plans,
Yes, sir.
so,
I'm gonna need hard copies,
just let me know how many you need. Of all of them?
all of them, plus the civils.
Okay. Anything else?
Thank you. Thank
We
you.
won't need to see the construction plans, just the civil work.
Motion to approve the date for May, which is the 19th, the third Thursday.
So moved.
13th of May, did you say?
19th.
19th of May. Uh-oh, is that flea market
How
week?
often do they have this stupid flea marketing camp? About once every 3 months?
The second Thursday in May and October.
Golly, seems like it's coming up
So we're
all
going
the
to,
time.
we're going to the third Thursday,
Can I
right?
get a second on that motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it, so it is. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
All right,